Hello and welcome in, friends, to Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, and I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. And it is week 14 in the NFL season, and we are about to make our confidence picks as we get closer and closer to the end of the season. And for a lot of you, the beginning of the fantasy playoffs. So good luck to each and every one of you who made your fantasy league playoffs. Good luck to everybody who's made some money, needs to make some money, or trying to get out of the red. But before we make our confidence picks for this week, let's jump into Thanksgiving week. Hopefully you each had an awesome Thanksgiving, whether you worked with your family, hung out by yourself, as long as it was healthy and productive or lazy, whatever you wanted and needed. Hopefully you got that. And the Bears got a huge win, beating the Detroit Lions 24-20. Mitchell Trubisky going 29 for 38, 338 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT. Look, plain and simple about this game. Mitch played better. Defense made some plays. They allowed a bad Detroit team to stick around. And they beat up on a bad Detroit's defense. But that game started off rough. Especially that huge play to Kenny Golladay, and it didn't look like things were going to go well for Chicago. But sure enough, they went out and they won the game that they were supposed to. And now we're at a point now, 6-6, and we're going to get into the matchup tonight on Thursday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. But plain and simple, the fact remains, is it fool's gold? This Bears team has not beaten a good team. And if they beat Detroit, what is going to be the narrative from then? Is it going to be the Bears beats a good Dallas team? Or do they take advantage of a horrible NFC East team? That division is horrible. Between Washington and New York, and now what we have with Dallas and Philadelphia, who knows with all the injuries, what they really are. But the matchup between Dallas and Chicago is kind of a microcosm of this entire season. You looked at this game against Detroit, and it's nice to see David Montgomery getting 16 carries. That was wonderful. But 24 points against this Detroit team doesn't seem like a win. It was a very meh kind of game. But it was a win that they needed and that they got. And we go ahead and now we take a look in the NFC standings, and you see the Patriots and the Bills are 1-2 in the AFC East, 10-2 and 9-3 after week 13. The Jets at 4-8 and the Dolphins at 3-9. Yeah, 9 wins. Yeah, that'll be today. AFC West, we have the Chiefs at 8-4, Raiders at 6-6. We have the Broncos at 4-8 and the Chargers at 4-8. In the AFC North, Lamar Jackson's Baltimore Ravens at 10-2. The Steelers hanging around at 7-5. You have the Browns at 5-7 and the Bengals at 1-11. And the AFC South, you have the Texans at 8-4. Ryan Tannehill's Titans at 7-5. You have the Colts at 6-6, and then you have the Jaguars at 4-8. But I wanted to jump into the NFC, and we take a look in the NFC North. The Packers at 9-3. You had the Vikings who lost that game on Monday night at 8-4. But the Bears at 6-6. This is where I really wanted to get into before we make the picks. Are they going to win out to win this division, to make a playoff push, to be in the hunt? I mean, if you look at the NFC West with 2 10-2 teams. And I've been telling you guys forever, I think it's Seattle, Baltimore. I've been saying it since like week 4. That division is stacked and for real. And then you have a 9-3 team in Green Bay who I think is kind of soft. But catch them in Lambeau Field, they can beat a lot of teams. The Saints are going in where they're 10-2 in a garbage division. So you're going to need help. Now, Kirk Cousins and Minnesota can definitely give you the help you need. We know they're not the best when the lights shine the brightest. And I don't think the Packers are a complete team. And you can only win the games that are ahead of you. But is a 9-7 record going to get you to that point? Allow the Bears one loss in these next few weeks. Is 9-7 good enough to make a playoff? Playoffs? Is it good enough? I don't know. I personally think they're probably going to win today. And there's some reasons I'll get to in a second, especially since I have Dallas's defense in my fantasy playoffs. But, I don't know. I don't know. It's taking too much. You lost games you weren't supposed to. And now that's where they are right now. But enough of the past. It's time to look at the present. And we start off with said Chicago Bears against another struggling team, the Dallas Cowboys. This is going to be an interesting matchup. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't been the dominant top tier running back that everybody drafted in their fantasy leagues, a guy who got all that money in this offseason. The Bears offense, where are we going to find him? You know Allen Robinson's going to get all the targets. Is Anthony Miller going to be able to make big plays? Is Taylor Gabriel going to play? They're going to get anything from their tight end position to Evan all season. Will Nagy continue to run the ball? This is a big game for both organizations. This is a crossroads game. Two teams who had a lot of hype, a lot of goals going into this season, and here we are right now for survival. It's week 14. That's not a good sign. Jason Garrett's coaching for his life, and if you're that Dallas Cowboys team, are you really going through a brick wall for him? The Bears look like they're getting Akeem Hicks next week. So if you win this game and you have a chance to now go 8-6 next week, you kind of have no choice. It's going to be crazy to see them win out and try to go 10-6 to try to make a playoffs. But personally, I have Dallas's defense in my main league. And I'm wondering, can they get to Mitchell Trubisky? Are they going to move Trubisky? Are they going to play man? We know how well, and that's what happened we saw against Detroit, that Mitch Trubisky is almost a different quarterback against playing the man defense opposed to zone. Like, it is really crazy. And the Detroit didn't want to adjust that at all. Will Dallas come into this differently? Will they try to put pressure onto him? I'm going to go with Chicago in this matchup. But I think it's going to be really close. I think it's going to be really dirty, and it's here in Chicago right now as we're recording this. It is just about 5:15, and it's not cold. It's going to be colder by the lakefront, but it's going to be a very neutral game. I'm very fascinated. It's almost an evenly matched up game. I don't think it's going to be the prettiest thing, but both teams need a win. I'm going with Chicago in this matchup. We have the Colts versus Tampa Bay. I'm going to go with the Colts. They're fighting for a playoff position. I think they can still make a run at it. I don't trust Tampa Bay. And when you think that you can, that's when they're going to let you down. I do need Mike Evans to have a big week in my fantasy playoffs, but I'm going to go with the Colts in this matchup. We have Baltimore versus Buffalo, two playoff teams, a potential playoff matchup in the first round, or at least in the second round. If Buffalo gets around it and they could get ahead in that division, be very interesting. I'm going to go with Baltimore in this game. I'm a little cautious, though, because now to let you in a little bit, I have Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers as my quarterbacks this year in my fantasy teams. Buffalo's a good defense. It's at Buffalo. But, again, we've seen it all now with Lamar Jackson, whether it's rain, they double down in the box, he's going to make plays, this team looks for real, and I'm going to go with Baltimore in this. I think it's just that year. We continue on. San Francisco, New Orleans, a hell of a matchup, another great matchup. I'm going to go with New Orleans in this one. They haven't looked quite right, but this might be one of those precursors to a playoff game where whatever we see now might roll over. But I definitely think that New Orleans is going to try to make sure that they get home field advantage. I think New Orleans wants as many games home so that way they can put their best offensive weapons out there and beat you the way they always do. And I think that defense needs to be able to carry their load. And that's always been the question about the New Orleans Saints. Can the defense hold up their end? But again, Drew Brees is coming back from that injury. He hasn't been quite right. They're quietly won that division already on Thanksgiving. So people got to watch out for New Orleans. I think New Orleans-Seattle seems like a collision course for the NFC Championship game. I'm going with New Orleans in this matchup. We have the Dolphins and the Jets. I mean, this is really a pick 'em. The Dolphins are winning some games, and I think Fitzpatrick is one of these guys who goes off every few weeks just to make enough money. The Jets are garbage. I'm actually going to go with Miami in this matchup just because this is definitely the type of game that the Jets lose. So I'll go with the Dolphins in this one. We have Cincinnati, Cleveland. I mean, the most disappointed team in the NFL for the longest time this season was the Bears, but I think the Browns have taken that title, and Freddie Kitchens probably will lose his job this season. Cincinnati, I mean, they're going out for the number one pick, so let's see who they end up with at the end of this season. We have Washington and Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers is going to go off. It's probably going to break my heart. I'm probably going to lose in my fantasy first round for having Aaron Rodgers on my bench. I'm going to ride with Lamar Jackson, though, and I'm going to ride with the Green Bay Packers beating Washington at home. We have the Lions and Minnesota. Again, I don't know where the Bears are going to win these games and going to be able to win this division and make a real run at it. Green Bay and Minnesota need to make the playoffs. They need to do. These organizations are in positions right now where their pressure's on them to not only finish off what they started, but the window for Minnesota is closing. Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers for just so long. You need a bite at the apple. So I'm going to go with Minnesota in this way. It'd be really fascinating to see if Detroit upsets Minnesota. That changes everything. I'll tell you next week, I will eat all the crow. If Minnesota loses this game, all bets are off, especially if Chicago wins tonight. But I'm going to go with the Vikings in this matchup. Houston, Denver. I mean, Deshaun Watson, I think, is going to gear up for his first real big playoff run. Be fascinated to see Deshaun Watson versus either Patrick Mahomes or at some point Lamar Jackson. I'm going to go with Houston in this matchup. I need Philip Lindsay to go off. We have the Panthers who fired Ron Rivera. Good old Chico, gone. But against the Atlanta Falcons, two bad teams. I'm going to go with Carolina in this game just because I have Christian McCaffrey and there's no real reason to like Kyle Allen, but Atlanta isn't anything special. This is the divisional matchup. I'll go with Carolina in this matchup. We have the Chargers against the Jaguars. Here's the thing, right? Jacksonville is not the best teams, but they're not the worst. And their defense is not something you could just pick apart. And I have Keenan Allen. I'm hoping for him to have a big game. I don't like when West Coast teams go all the way to the East Coast and East Coast teams go all the way to the West Coast. I think, though, this Chargers team rather play away, outside of L.A., which was a bad move for them to have to move there anyway. They should have moved if anywhere else, but then L.A. But I'm gonna go with the Chargers in this matchup just because I think they're gonna win a game away. And after that heartbreak last week, you know what? After that heartbreak last week, this might just be the tail end of it. But I'm going to go with Jacksonville. You know what? I changed my mind mid-thought. You know what? Heartbreak last week. They're going away from home. And even though they haven't played a real home game all season, I think this season's shot for them. I'm just hoping that Keenan Allen gets some garbage points. There's even a chance that they bench Philip Rivers if things go really bad. We have the Titans and Oakland. Ryan Tannehill playing really well. Derek Carr and Oakland have kind of fallen back a little bit. I'm going to go with the Titans in this one just because I think that AFC South matchup is just going to keep tight like it always does every single year. What a matchup. Two struggling teams, really, between Kansas City and New England, and struggling in quotations, but I'm going to go with Kansas City. Even though New England's defense is very good, the best in the league probably, their offense can't keep up with certain teams. And at some point, Kansas City is going to get right. They're going to get right. Patrick Mahomes will get as healthy as he can. And I think this is one of those matchups, again, where New England loses this in the regular season but finds a way to win in the playoffs. I think we're going to see Kansas City win this matchup. We have Pittsburgh against Arizona. Pittsburgh finds a way to win another game. They stick around, probably going to 8-5. Arizona's a bad team, and it'll just be interesting, even though I don't think James Connors will play in this game. I think Mike Tomlin will have his guys ready. On Sunday Night Football, Seattle and the Rams. I think Seattle wins this one and puts away the LA Rams for the season, buries this team. The Rams might come back strong next year, but they spent a lot of money, and this is what we've been talking about. I preached it about the Bears. When you have a bite at the apple, you have to take it. It is so hard to get back to where you were the previous season in the NFL, and we're seeing it with the LA Rams. So many injuries, so much money being spent. Regression for certain players, progression for some, but not in the right positions. And then the Sean McVay X Factor. Whether or not it was all hype, we'll have to find out next year. I think Seattle buries them by the end of this. And finally, in a barn burner on Monday Night Football, it's the New York Football Giants against Philadelphia. I'm going to go with the Eagles just because the Giants are god-awful. But those are our picks for Week 14 in the NFL. It is now time to put some confidence in them. And we look around a little bit. Some very intriguing matchups. I want to see where New Orleans was again. New Orleans against San Francisco, that's a tough one. I don't think I'm going to put so many points on them. I'm not willing to. All right, so I definitely am willing to put 16 points on Green Bay. So Green Bay, I'll definitely put 16 points on them. I'm willing to put 15 points on Houston. I am willing to put 14 points on Minnesota. Let's see. I guess I am willing to put some points on Philly. I'm not going to put freaking 13 points on them. Look around a little bit. I might put 13 points on Baltimore over Buffalo. And again, if you're new to the program, thank you so much for joining us. But we will go over it at the very end so you guys can make fun of me next week as I go horribly, horribly wrong. We continue on. I look through some of these picks. I'm willing to put definitely some points on Seattle. I put more points on Seattle than Chicago. And I will then I think I'm willing to put 11 on Drew Brees. And then I will go Chicago. Will I put 10 on Chicago over Dallas? I don't think so. I think I'm going to put more like 7 on that one. We'll keep looking around. Pittsburgh, I'll put them up in a little bit of middle. How about this? Let's go down a little bit, and let's see who I'm not really confident on putting points. I'll put a couple points on Kansas City over New England. I'll put about 8 points on that. So I'm going to lower Miami, definitely. So what's the 50-50 game for me? I think probably the 50-50 game for me is probably, yeah, I would say this is, I like how this looks right here. And I'll be willing to put a couple more points like that way. I think I like it right here. All right, so this is my order for this week 14 in the NFL. I have 16 points on the Packers beating Washington, 15 confidence points on Houston over the Broncos. I have 14 points on the Vikings over the Lions, 13 confidence points on the Ravens over Buffalo. I have 12 confidence points on Seattle over the Rams, 11 confidence points on New Orleans over the 49ers, 10 on the Bears beating the Cowboys tonight. I have 9 confidence points on the Colts over Tampa Bay, 8 confidence points on Kansas City over New England, 7 confidence points on the Eagles beating the Giants, 6 on the Browns beating Cincinnati, 5 confidence points on the Steelers over the Cardinals, 4 confidence points on the Panthers beating the Falcons, 3 confidence points on the Dolphins beating the Jets, 2 confidence points on the Jaguars beating the Chargers, and 1 confidence points on the Titans beating the Raiders. Thank you all so much for joining us on this Week 14 Confidence Picks here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado. You guys can follow me on social medias. Let me know how you did on your fantasy season, how you're doing in your playoffs, how your confidence picks are going, your survivor pools are going. I'm on Twitter at Mike M. Media and on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. You can follow the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. We have a pop culture show that you can follow on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. If you're into true crime, we're in Instagram at Murder, Mysteries, and More. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us on YouTube so you can watch our videos as we make these picks and other cool stuff that we post on youtube.com/Mike Mercado2333 or search Mercado Airwaves Network. You can play video games with us at twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves Network. Like, rate, review, share us wherever you get your favorite podcast. It really means the world to us at Mercado Airwaves. We appreciate all the support that you guys give us on the podcast platforms and on YouTube, where we've just hit a milestone with subscribers. We appreciate you guys. We love you guys. Thank you so much. It means the world to us heading into the holiday season. And of course, if you like to support the show, we have an awesome way that you can support our nasty habits that include the lovely Nicole Mancha and Alex Mercado. And that is patreon.com/Mercado Airways. You can get early access. You can be part of raffles, tournaments, other cool stuff. And you get early access to a lot of our interviews, to all our interviews, and a lot of cool new stuff that we're working on. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Enjoy all the games. We'll see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.